Another useful feature is the outline view here. If you have a large class, like we have a class now here, Smart URL, I have two methods in it, display and display2. Over here, if you click on the plus, you'll see that all of the methods are listed here, and if you double click on them, then you can go to them. If you have a very large class, it's quite useful. You can also sort them alphabetically if you want. Also, notice these little icons here. They enable you to fold portions of code, which can be useful to get an overview of your code. A super useful feature of Eclipse is the templates, which are like macros. Basically, they work like this. If you have to do an if statement, you can just type in if and control space, enter, and you're ready to type that in. So now I type in first name equals John, for instance, and then if I want to go to this next space here, I press tab, and I'm there. Then his score is 0, for instance. So there are others. For instance, for a switch statement, SW, control, space, and enter, and you've got the whole structure of a switch statement there, for instance. Where are all of these defined? Window, preferences. When you're here, type in templates, and then click on PHP templates, and you'll see all of them. Here's the if. Here's a switch statement, while, etc. Let's say you want to make your own. Let's say we want to make a template which types in this code here and allows us to enter and puts the cursor here so we can enter the parameter. I'll do a Control C here to copy the code. Window, preferences, and then when I'm in PHP templates, new. Now the name is what I want to type to get it, so it's smart URL code. I'll just do SM. We'll call it smart URL, and then I'll paste in my code. Now you see there's problems with the dollar signs. If you want a dollar sign, you have to do a double dollar sign because they're reserved characters. And we don't want advanced to come in, but that's where we want the cursor. So we click on insert variable, cursor, and we're ready to go. Okay. Now we want the smart URL block, SM, control space. There it is, enter, and we got it, and our cursor is ready to type in the parameter. So that can speed up your programming a lot, especially because it's so easy to make your own templates. If your code gets way out of whack in terms of indentations like this, if you copy in a lot of code or something and you want to fix it easily, just press Control Shift F and everything hops into place. Another useful feature, which is in almost all editors, is highlight text and do tab, 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 or Shift tab, 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 so you can move blocks of text back and forth. Something that I almost always turn on is this button here. This is the file link button. When I'm in the file test and I have this on, then my file test is shown here highlighted in my project. When I go to library, library is shown. Okay, it's not very useful when you only have 3 files, but when you have 180 in 30 different subdirectories, it's very useful because you can always see where the file you're working on is located in your directory tree. Another very useful one is Control Q to go to the last place that you edited. So let's say we're in test here and we change 2, 3, 4 to 5 here. Okay. And then we go into library, we're looking around and we think, okay, where was I? Just type Control Q and you pop back to the last edit where you were. If you get an error in line 42 and you want to go to line 42 quick, type Control L, type in 42, enter, and you go to line 42. You use that all the time. Another thing I use all the time is Control H to search. So let's say I want to search for string helper in my whole project. I type Control H, click on the file search, type string helper. Here it says it's going to look through all files that end with PHP. I do search. And it says it found it in 2 files. Double click on library, it shows me where it found it in library. I double click here and it shows me where it found it in test PHP. Very useful way to find text in your whole project. So a super feature about Eclipse is it does project management quite easily. So let's say we're done testing here. Right click on test, close project. And let's say you're ready to make that website for your friend Randy's Bike Shop. Right-click, New PHP project, Randy's Bike Shop. Enter, and you have a new project. Now remember, the project is actually a directory under Zamplite htdocs webs, and here we already have Randy's Bike Shop. It already has some meta files in there. New PHP file, index PHP. Let's go ahead and make a site here. Echo H1 Randy's Bike Shop. Okay. So then we can go to our browser here, localhost, webs. Oh, there's Randy's Bike Shop, and we have the text. And so you can work in your project here. When you're done, right-click, close project, right-click, open project for test. And it's a very easy way to have 20, 30 projects and not get them all confused. And another important point is when you change files outside of Eclipse. A very nice feature is that, let's say we're here in test, let's say we're here in Hello World, and we know we have the up-to-date version of this file. But if we go to the directory and we see Hello World, and let's say for some reason you change this in Notepad, changed in Notepad, this happens a lot, actually, when you're doing little editing. When you go back to Eclipse, this is what I wanted to show, it will immediately say the file has changed on your file system. Do you want to load the changes? Yes. And you know that you are in sync with what is actually in the file. So that's a very nice feature. If you add a file to a directory, so let's say you have test file, Control-C, Control-V. I have here now test2, let's say. Enter. So now that file actually exists in our project tests directory, but it doesn't pop up here. That's because you wouldn't want Eclipse to always be looking if there's new files, especially if you have huge projects. It would just be too much resource consumption in the background. Therefore, if you add files or delete files, to get the up-to-date view, you have to click on the project and press F5. And then we see here that test2 pops in. After you press F5, you'll see that your file actually exists. This is an important point, especially if you're searching with Control-H through all of your files to find something. It's not going to search through the files that are not in the navigation here. So that's an important point to avoid misunderstandings of you were looking for something, you know it's in there, but it didn't find it. It needs to be up to date. Also, let's say that, let's just make a little file here. Let's say that you have test3 PHP here, and you're copying this file from the Windows Explorer to your project. You can actually just copy it with cut and paste into PHP or Eclipse's Navigator window here. So I'm here, I do Control-C, click inside this window and do Control-V, and it'll pop it in. And that's, if you do a lot of that, copying files from other websites into the website that you're working on, that's a good way to just copy in the files, and then you know that things are up to date because Eclipse knows that the file now exists because you pasted it directly into Eclipse. Those are the main features of Eclipse that I use and that I wanted to show you. If you have other questions, of course, the web, Google is a good place to look. I found a very useful news group to post questions to as well. If you go to eclipse.org, community, news groups, and there's lots of news groups. So just search for PDT here. Or click on Buy Project, yeah. And then here, you can see all of them here. If you search for PDT, you'll find Eclipse Tools. Click on that and you can log in. You have to sign up here to post questions. But I found that, yeah, here, request password. I found that that's been a very useful news group. If you have a question about Eclipse, just go ahead and post it in, usually in a day or so, that you'll get an answer, or you can search through the questions that have been posted and you can find an answer there as well. So those are the basics of using Eclipse. I hope that it proves to be a friendly and useful editor for you.